stand alone, and if you build their self-esteem, do more assertive training and so forth, I think you're going to see something change there. Now, the next one, I think, is bystanders. Yeah, I want to just spend a couple minutes on bystanders. Bystanders is your tipping point. So if you are working with any of the schools or the community, most of the kids are still not bullied, or they're not the bully or the bullier. In most episodes, you're going to have about 20 bystanders, or maybe 3 or 4, for every person that's bullied. What are you going to do to tip the scales with the bystanders? That is your point of power. Does anybody have an idea what you can do with bystanders? Because you have to convince those kids that are bystanders that they are bullies by default. By not doing anything, by teachers not doing anything, you are giving permission. And it's really kind of rubber stamping it as, hey, this is okay stuff to do. So, are there any ideas of what you are doing as bystanders? Or what you think you might do? Yes?
Create a buddy system where that child that is observing it reports it to somebody, doesn't step in themselves, so they don't become the bullies, and taking into consideration the bullied individual or student is weak and can't speak for themselves.
Yeah, I'll repeat it. She said to make sure that there's kind of like a buddy system, and one of the things, and there's a chapter in my book on how to create a Be a Buddy, Not a Bully campaign, but she's absolutely right. If you have a system, because here's the other thing, you don't want your child as a bystander ending up being the next victim, and they really could be. So there's a safety factor there of how much you can encourage and tell kids that they do have to, take some positive action. But the positive action is more so in reporting, and besides, most kids, somebody has a cell phone. So use those tools that are used against you to actually, do the reporting. But be accessible. Make reporting very accessible, even if it isn't a cell phone. Where there might be a box in a school, for example, where they can anonymously report it because they're so afraid that they're going to be the next person that's going to be bullied. But this is a sense of responsibility that you need to ingrain in people. I want to just share something. A couple friends in Green Bay here. Fleet Farm. I don't know if you guys know much about Fleet Farm, but they have a lower rate of, what is that called, theft with their employees. Okay? It's very, very low compared to any other store. And I was counseling somebody that actually lost her job, not because she was stealing, but she knew of and saw somebody else stealing. And at Fleet Farm, if you see somebody else doing the crime, you're part of it. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And that is what you have to instill in bystanders. And so at Fleet Farm, at least at the one in Green Bay, Wisconsin, if you know of somebody that's doing something wrong and you are not reporting it, you're just as guilty. And it worked. And the fact is, it worked. So, next slide if we can have it, is questions shape our destiny. As, investigators, whatever your role might be, it is all about asking questions. And I've got several more, but I just wanted to share 5 with you to give you an idea of what we can do. You want to ask questions like, who is their hero? You really want to know who do they idolize and who do they look up to, and that'll give you a good indication of what direction they're heading and where you need to intervene. The next is, how do you want to be remembered? And if it's Osama bin Laden, these people are committed to being a martyr or whatever it might be. In his case, he made everybody else a martyr. But you want to know how they want to be remembered. Really crucial information. Number 3, their dreams and their visions. I'm going to tell you something about a police officer with the New York Police Department. He's in my book. He lives in the Raleigh area. Just a nice guy. He's now a minister and actually doing a lot of the same stuff that I'm doing. But he used to be an officer for the New York Police Department. He grew up in Brownsville. If anybody's from New York, you know that Brownsville is a very challenged area. You may have heard of Harlem and Bedford-Stuyvesant. It's right there, yeah. He said he remembered as kids, they'd sit on the corner, just kind of, loafing around, and when pretty cars would go by, they'd all say, you know, someday I'm going to have me a car just like that. And what he points out is that they all talked about where they would go and what they would do. The difference is that he went back to Brownsville just a few years ago, and all of his friends were still hanging out on the corner, living with mommy, going nowhere in life. And he's accomplished a lot of good things. And the difference is, you can have a dream, but if you don't attach a vision with it, and along with that have a plan. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. You're not going to make a difference. And last but not least, you really need to know how they feel about people in the world, because when I was talking about castaways, it's all about object relations. And if they see the world as a hostile environment and they're totally disconnected with it, you're probably dealing with category 1 of a person that's born to